According to multiple international reports between April 8 and April 10, 2026, the United States and Iran reached a conditional and provisional 2-week ceasefire agreement after weeks of intense and dangerous military escalation across the Middle East. This development came after nearly 40 days of sustained conflict involving coordinated military actions by the United States and Israel against Iranian targets, alongside retaliatory missile strikes and regional operations by Iran and its allied forces. The situation had pushed the region to the brink of a broader war, raising global fears about economic instability, energy disruption, and the potential for a prolonged geopolitical crisis. The ceasefire, announced around April 7 to 8, 2026, was not a permanent peace agreement but rather a temporary pause designed to halt active hostilities and create space for diplomatic negotiations. The agreement was reportedly mediated by Pakistan, which played a key role in bringing both sides to the negotiating table at a critical moment when tensions were reaching their peak. Before the ceasefire was reached, the conflict had escalated dramatically. The United States, alongside Israel, had carried out a series of airstrikes targeting Iranian military infrastructure and strategic facilities. These attacks were part of a broader effort to weaken Iran's military capabilities and curb its regional influence. In response, Iran launched counterattacks, including missile strikes and actions affecting key shipping routes in the region, particularly the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is one of the most important global transit corridors, through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. As the conflict intensified, Iran imposed restrictions and threats on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting global trade and causing a surge in oil prices. The situation quickly drew international concern, as any prolonged disruption to this route could severely impact global energy markets and economic stability. The terms of the ceasefire were conditional and limited in scope. One of the key provisions required the United States and Israel to suspend their bombing campaigns against Iran for a period of 2 weeks. In return, Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and allow safe passage for commercial shipping during the ceasefire period. This condition was crucial, as it aimed to stabilize global oil flows and reduce immediate economic pressures caused by the conflict. Despite the agreement, the ceasefire was widely described as fragile and uncertain. Reports indicated that the truce depended heavily on both sides adhering strictly to the agreed terms. Any violation, such as renewed military strikes or disruptions to shipping, could quickly collapse the agreement and reignite hostilities. In fact, even shortly after the ceasefire began, concerns emerged about potential violations and the difficulty of maintaining trust between the two sides. Following the announcement, diplomatic talks were scheduled to continue, with negotiations taking place in Islamabad. The goal of these talks was to build on the temporary ceasefire and work toward a more comprehensive and long-term peace agreement. However, these discussions faced significant challenges. Deep disagreements remained over key issues, including Iran's nuclear program, regional military presence, and economic sanctions imposed by the United States. By April 10 to 12, reports indicated that negotiations had stalled, and no final agreement had been reached. U.S. officials described the talks as serious but ultimately inconclusive, while Iranian representatives criticized the demands made by the United States as unrealistic. The failure to secure a broader deal raised concerns that the ceasefire might not be extended beyond its initial 2-week period. The global reaction to the ceasefire was mixed but generally hopeful. Many countries and international organizations welcomed the pause in fighting, viewing it as an opportunity to prevent further escalation and loss of life. At the same time, leaders around the world urged both sides to commit to dialogue and avoid actions that could undermine the fragile peace. Economically, the ceasefire had immediate but limited positive effects. The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz allowed some oil shipments to resume, easing pressure on global markets. However, uncertainty surrounding the future of the ceasefire continued to affect investor confidence and energy prices. Markets remained volatile, reflecting ongoing fears of renewed conflict. Politically, the situation also exposed divisions within the United States and among its allies. Some leaders advocated for a stronger military approach, while others warned against further escalation and emphasized the importance of diplomacy. These internal debates highlighted the complexity of the conflict and the challenges involved in reaching a sustainable resolution. In conclusion, the April 2026 ceasefire between the United States and Iran represented a critical but temporary pause in a rapidly escalating conflict. While it successfully halted immediate hostilities and reopened key global trade routes, it did not resolve the underlying issues driving the confrontation. The agreement's conditional nature and the failure of follow-up negotiations underscored the fragility of the situation.